What if Kamala Harris became our next president of the United States? Everybody, it's Maddie, host of Political Palette. Just the facts, politics from all sides. Now, I wanted to do this little segment to begin because I wanted to see and give Kamala Harris the benefit of the doubt, right? I mean, I could definitely see the pros in her running versus Biden, right? Like if Biden decides, hey, I'm done with this whole thing as his funding and everything's drying up, which we'll talk about later here in the show. But, if Biden does step aside, it is more than likely going to be Kamala. And I want to dive into this and, learn a little bit more about Kamala, talk about her a little bit, see if she's actually going to be able to win against Donald Trump, if that's even possible. And, sure, she's a polarizing figure. She talks about coconut trees, right? We know this stuff, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean she's going to be a bad pick, right? She might even be better than Biden in terms of being actually on the dot about what she's saying and knowing what she's saying, right? She might actually be better in policy. We don't know this right now because she hasn't started up an official campaign, but I would imagine that she would want to do similar things as Biden has sought out to do so far. But I think it would definitely be a united effort between a lot of people in the Democrat Party if they really want to get rid of Biden. Because, it really seems so far that Biden just wants to stay in. He's committing to not leaving, and that's that, right? Just the other day, though, Kamala had an incredible campaign speech. If you listen to it, it sounded pretty good overall, right? It sounded very coherent. Some parts were pretty, weird, like, oh, why are you saying this? Why are you saying that way, right? But overall, she was able to create energy in the crowd and get everybody rallied up, right, for her and supporting behind her. So I will say that there's always this possibility that Kamala could win, right? And I know sometimes, we make fun of her, I make fun of her, etc. But in reality, we have to think, what is going to be the best option forward? Is it Donald Trump? Is it Kamala Harris? Who is it? And I want to talk a little bit about Project 2025. I'm not going to dive that much into it, but from what I've heard, Donald Trump denied the allegations that he's a part of Project 2025. So, we can kind of get that out of the way. No, I'm just kidding. We don't believe politicians for what they say based off, a random thing that they said, right? We're not going to instantly believe him just because he said he's not associated with it doesn't mean that he's telling the truth. But, is he really going to disband gay marriage? Is he really going to, do all this horrible things for the environment and just hurt a lot of the progress that was done right throughout the last 20 years and equality and inclusion and diversity and anti-hate? I don't think he's going to unravel all that. I don't think he's going to completely uproot all that. At least I hope not. But then there's people from CNN, right, who reported, I believe Jake Tapper had a story on this. He's a great journalist. I played him on my show before. He talked a little bit about how basically in Donald Trump's administration, like his cabinet and his picks and all that, and who he wants to see run with him, right? A lot of these people are a part of Project 2025, so it's kind of like a direct correlation to Project 2025. So, you really got to look at this from a wide lens perspective. Like, are you going to really believe this? Are you not? What direction do you want to go here? Who's the better option, really? Who are we going to believe, right? Politics is a tricky game. And, I really want to talk a little bit about this all around. But I will say that as we get into this topic now about Kamala Harris and potentially running for president, right? I want to give her the benefit of the doubt, like I said earlier, and I will say she aligns with a lot more progressive values than traditional liberal policies, and that could be a good thing, right? She's also pretty young, so she's not, in her 80s like Donald and Joe, right? So there's always some pros and cons here, but I will say, as a progressive myself, as someone who wants to see change, I want to see things actually get done. I don't want to see the same old as we've seen for the past, 20 years, pretty much. I want to actually see things get done. And is Kamala going to be able to do that? Well, let's find out. So let's start with a little background on Kamala Harris. So she was born in Oakland, California, to a Jamaican father and an Indian mother. She embodies the American melting pot. She's a trailblazer, California's first African American woman to serve as Attorney General. And of course, the first woman, the first black woman, and the first person of South Asian descent to be elected Vice President of the United States. Harris's career has been marked by a commitment to justice and equality. Her work as a prosecutor and later as Attorney General focused on issues like criminal justice reform, consumer protection, and fighting against big banks. Her Senate tenure showcased her skills as a sharp, relentless questioner, often making headlines during high-profile hearings. Now, let's talk a little bit about young voters. The demographic is notoriously difficult to pin down. They're diverse, they're informed, and they're skeptical, but they're also incredibly powerful. In recent elections, we've seen the impact of mobilizing young voters. So how does Kamala Harris stack up in the appealing to this group? Well, let's go through each segment together. So number 1, progressive policies. Harris has embraced a range of progressive policies that resonate with young voters. Her support for issues like climate action, student debt relief, and criminal justice reform aligns with the priorities of many young Americans. She has spoken out about the need for systemic change, which strikes a chord with a generation that's deeply aware of and affected by systemic inequalities. Number 2, authentic and relatability. Young voters crave authenticity. Harris's personal story, her diverse background, and her experiences resonate with many young people. She's also known for her engaging social media presence, which is a big plus. Her willingness to address issues head-on and her ability to communicate effectively can help bridge the gap with younger voters. Youth engagement. Harris has actively engaged with young people throughout her career, from hosting town halls to visiting college campuses. She's made a concerted effort to connect with young voters. This direct engagement is critical in building trust and credibility. Focus on technology and innovation. Young voters are digital natives, and they care deeply about issues like net neutrality, data protection, and tech innovation. Harris's understanding and advocacy for tech-related issues can make her particularly appealing to this demographic. However, it's not all smooth sailing. Some young voters see her prosecutorial background as a negative, particularly those concerned with criminal justice reform. It's a complex issue, and Harris will need to address these concerns head-on, providing clear, honest explanations of her record and her vision for the future. So, if Harris were to run for president, her choice of vice president would be crucial. A good VP pick can balance the ticket and appeal to broader demographics and bring more valuable experience and insight. So, who might she choose? Let's go through some of the potential options here. Stacey Abrams. Abrams is a political figure in Democratic politics, known for her work in voting rights and her leadership in Georgia. She's charismatic, experienced, and has a proven track record of mobilizing voters. Her addition to the ticket would energize the base, particularly black voters and young people. Pete Buttigieg, the current Secretary of Transportation. Buttigieg is a rising star in the Democratic Party. He's young, articulate, and has a strong following among young and progressive voters. Now, Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, Whitmer has gained national recognition for her handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and her strong leadership in a swing state. Her executive experience and Midwestern appeal could provide a strong counterbalance to Harris's coastal background. And then lastly, Julian Castro. Castro, the former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, is another potential pick. He's experienced, well respected, and his presence could energize Latino voters, a crucial and growing demographic. Each of these potential VPs brings something unique to the table. The choice will depend on the political landscape at the time and the strategic goals of the Harris campaign. But I want to ask the age-old question. This is like probably the biggest question of the whole show today, right? Can Kamala Harris win against Donald Trump, right? The million-dollar question. Well, there's several factors involved here. So, Harris's experience as a prosecutor and her sharp questioning skills give her an edge. However, she'll need to be able to balance being tough with being relatable and empathetic. Trump is a formidable debater known for his aggressive style, and Harris will need to be prepared for that. Also, policy proposals with Harris will need to be clear, bold, and appealing. She'll need to articulate a vision that addresses the concerns of everyday Americans. Battleground states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Florida. So, I mean, Florida's not really in the running anymore for like a battleground state because that's pretty much guaranteed to go Republican, I would say now. But like, you know, I would say probably Arizona instead of Florida. But her campaign will need to invest heavily in these states with targeted messaging and strong on-the-ground efforts. Now, I'll tell you one thing. Trump's base is loyal and motivated. Harris will need to find ways to appeal to some of these voters, particularly those who are disillusioned with Trump's presidency. This means addressing issues like economic anxiety, royal concerns, and national security in a way that resonates with these voters. Now, there's always the unpredictable events like scandals, economic shifts, global events. They could all have a significant impact. Harris will need to be adaptable and resilient, ready to respond to whatever comes her way. So, can Kamala Harris win against Donald Trump? The answer is not straightforward. She has the potential, the experience, and the platform to be a formidable candidate. Her appeal to young voters, her diverse background, and her progressive policies position her well. However, the road to the White House is fraught with challenges. She'll need a strong strategic campaign, a compelling vision for the future, and the ability to navigate the unpredictable twists and turns of a presidential race. Whether you're a fan of Harris or a skeptic, one thing is clear. The Harris-Trump showdown will be one for the history books. So, I'll tell you one thing, though, which will really hurt Harris's whole, campaign and everything, period, would be the southern border, right? Biden told her to go to the southern border. Did she go to the southern border to see what was happening? Did she do anything? That was her main mission, right? That was like her task that, our president told her to do. Did she do it? No, right? And according to 70% of Americans, the border is an issue for Americans, right? And the fact that she already didn't do a single thing, it kind of just makes it a sour taste in the mouth for voters. It's basically getting Biden, except a different talking head this time, right? I mean, That's all politics have become and really zeroed down to anyway. It's just talking heads saying about random stuff, right? And trying to sell you on these different ideas that they believe in. So I'll tell you one thing. When it comes to Kamala and, Biden stepping down and all that, I really think it's going to be a tricky thing, right? They can be risking everything if they do this. But then on some accounts, what do they have to lose? Nothing, right? Because either way, they might lose the election. So let's go with the best chance, the best opportunity, the best way to push up these numbers and make things look a lot better than they currently do. And, I wonder if we'll see a situation where Biden resigns or if he just decides to not rerun again and he remains president. I feel like it would probably be in the best interest of Biden and the American people if he stayed in the White House until his term ends and whoever wins will take over from there. If he were to leave now, that would be chaotic and, having to start up a whole new campaign. I mean, obviously they could easily just switch some things right over, right, with the advertising and stuff and logos and announcing the VP. But, after that, like Harris and the new VP pick would have to campaign, go out there, see grassroots supporters, do all that stuff. And obviously doing that while being a president is not very productive overall. But I'll say it's really a toss-up what's going to happen next. I mean, we could sit here all day and kind of speculate what's going to happen, but we really don't know.
Discover Empower United, a beacon of hope and empowerment for LGBTQ+ youth. We are dedicated to providing the support, advocacy, and resources necessary to uplift and inspire our community. Our mission is to create a world where every LGBTQ+ young person feels valued, accepted, and empowered to reach their full potential. At Empower United, we offer a variety of programs and services designed to address the unique challenges faced by LGBTQ+ youth. We need your help to continue our vital work. By donating as little as $5, you can make a significant impact on the lives of LGBTQ+ youth. Visit empowerunited.org today to learn more about our programs and to make your donation.
So I got something absolutely insane for y'all. So donors withhold $90 million promised for Biden in latest debate fallout. So this is according to Forbes and a variety of other news sources. So basically, here's the top line. Wealthy donors to President Joe Biden are withholding $90 million in pledged contributions to the main super PAC supporting his candidacy in protest of his decision to stay in the race. The New York Times reported the significant financial setback for the president's campaign following his June 27th debate performance. The group of donors reportedly told the super PAC Future Forward they won't make the contributions, which include multiple commitments over $10 million, if Biden continues his candidacy, citing two unnamed sources briefed on the conversations. An unnamed Future Forward advisor told the Times the group expected donors who have past contributions in the wake of the debate to resume giving once there are more clarity about the future of the Democratic ticket. Some of the Biden's allies appear to be taking steps to prepare for a Democratic ticket without him on it in the aftermath of the debate. The Times and Puck News reported a group closely associated with Future Forward tested 4 potential Biden replacements and found all of them performed better against Trump than Biden in a poll conducted in the 72 hours after the debate. Several wealthy donors have publicly called on Biden to step aside, including billionaire Mark Pincus, Christy Walton, Michael Navarrete, I don't even know how to say that, and Reed Hastings, while Mark Cuban has said that Democrats should weigh replacements. Biden has refused calls to step aside in the race, including from 20 Democrats in Congress. He has attempted to undo the debate damage by rallying his allies in Congress, sitting for a series of media interviews and holding his first post-debate press conference Thursday. The interviews and Thursday's presser were widely viewed to have gone better than the debate, but not well enough to reverse the backlash. Biden has made several notable gaffes since the debate, including referring to Vice President Kamala Harris as Vice President Trump, and introducing Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky as President Putin. On Thursday, in telling a Philadelphia radio host last week he's the first black woman to serve with a black president, mixing up references to former President Barack Obama and Harris. So far, Democratic leaders in Congress have stood by Biden, with some leaving open the possibility he could step down in the race, but stopping short of calling him to do so. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, DNY, had said in public he is with Joe, but the Times and Axios reported this week that he was having conversations in private about how to replace Biden, and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat in New York, also said Friday he met with Biden to brief him on Democrats' discussions about the path forward. Oh, he met on Biden on Thursday. Sorry about that. As the caucus remains deeply divided on whether to continue supporting his candidacy. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Wednesday urged Biden to make a decision about whether to continue running soon, while Biden ally Representative James Clyburn said Friday he'd support Biden, but he would back Harris if he decides to drop out of the race. While Biden digs in, his campaign has reportedly started to prepare for the possibility he might have to step down, citing three unnamed sources who said that the campaign is conducting internal polling to test how well Harris performs against Trump. The Times also reported Thursday that some of Biden's longtime aides are stargazing about how to convince the president he needs to step down. Biden campaign spokesperson T.J. Ducklo firmly denied the later report, telling the Times it was patently false. Now, I wanted to transition us into a pretty hot topic. Polls, right? Polls are something that we question all around. Are they accurate? Hillary Clinton was supposed to win in 2016, and she lost. But that was all according to the polls, right? So let's start with the basics. What are polls? No, not the kind of you dance around at a bachelorette party. I'm talking about public opinion polls. These are surveys conducted to gauge public sentiment on various issues, candidates, or policies. Think of them as a snapshot of the mood of the electorate at a given moment. But like any snapshot, they can be out of focus, overexposed, or just plain ugly. Now let's talk the numbers. According to recent polls, Biden is trailing behind Donald Trump. It's like he's trying to run a marathon with his shoelaces tied together. The question is, should we take these polls seriously, and are they the crystal ball of politics or just glorified guesswork? Historically, polls have had their fair share of hits and misses. Remember 2016? Yeah, the year that pollsters collectively facepalmed. Most polls predicted a Hillary Clinton victory, but we all know how that turned out. So if you're feeling a little bit skeptical about polls, you're not alone. Pollsters themselves often admit their limitations. It's like asking a weather forecaster to predict the exact minute it'll start raining next month. Good luck with that. And let's break down some of the reasons why polls can be misleading. First, there's the issue of sampling. Pollsters aim to survey a representative sample of the population, but getting a perfect sample is like finding a unicorn at a petting zoo. Some groups are underrepresented. Others are overrepresented. And then there's the question of who actually answers these surveys. People with strong opinions are more likely to respond, skewing the results. It's like if Yelp reviews were your only source of information about a restaurant. you'd think every place was either a 5-star culinary utopia or a 1-star roach motel. Next, let's talk about timing. Polls are a snapshot in time, but political opinions can change faster than the weather in spring. One week a candidate is the hero, the next they're the villain. Remember Howard Dean's scream in 2004? One moment of exuberance and his campaign was toast. Or about Mitt Romney's binders full of women comment in 2012. Gaffles, scandals, world events, any of these can turn the tide in an instant. And then there's the methodology. Different polling organizations use different methods to collect data. Some rely on phone calls, others on online surveys. Each method has its own set of biases and challenges. For instance, older voters are more likely to respond to phone surveys, while the younger voters might be more reachable online. It's like trying to catch fish with different nets. You'll end up with different catches each time. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Polls, despite their flaws, do provide valuable insights. They can highlight trends, shifts in public opinion, and key issues that matter to voters. They're a tool, not a gospel. So when we see Biden trailing in the polls, it tells us something, but it's not the whole story. Now, to Republicans out there feeling smug about the current polls, a word of caution. Don't get too comfortable. We're still months away from the election, and in politics, that's an eternity. So many things can happen between now and then. Candidates can rise or fall, issues can come and go, and the electorate's mood can swing like a pendulum on a sugar rush. Let's look at some historical examples. In 1988, George H.W. Bush was trailing Michael Dukakis by 17 points after the Democratic National Convention. 17 points! But by Election Day, Bush had turned it around and won by a landslide. More recently, in 2020, Joe Biden was trailing in key swing states during the summer, only to clinch victory in November. The moral of the story, early polls are not predictive of final outcomes. They're more like the preseason games in sports, interesting but not definitive. And let's not forget the unforeseen events. A major news story, an economic downturn, let's say a little debate night on CNN that recently happened, right? All these little things could pretty much impact the whole political landscape and completely change the polls. So, speaking of unpredictable, let's not forget the candidates themselves. Gaffles, scandals, and brilliant moments of oratory can all play a role. In the 2000 election, Al Gore's sighs during the debates were endlessly replayed and parodied, contributing to his narrow loss. In 2016, Donald Trump's brash and unfiltered style defied conventional wisdom and resonated with many voters. Candidates are human, and humans are unpredictable. And then there's the game, which happens in politics all the time. Campaigns are more than just speeches and debates. They're about organizing, mobilizing, and getting out the vote. A candidate with strong grassroots operation can perform their poll numbers by turning out supporters on election day. Remember Obama's 2008 campaign? His team's mastery of digital organizing and voter mobilization was a game changer. So what should we make of the current polls showing Biden trailing? First, take them with a grain of salt, or maybe a whole salt shaker. They reflect a moment in time, not a guaranteed future. And second, recognize that the political landscape can change dramatically in the months leading up to the election. And finally, understand polls are just one piece of the puzzle. The real story will unfold in the coming months as candidates make their case to the American people. To wrap this up, let's inject a bit of humor into the mix. Imagine if polls were unreliable in other areas of life. According to our latest survey, 70% of Americans think pineapple belongs on pizza. Outrageous. Or how about polls indicate that 85% of people prefer cats over dogs? The point is, polls can be fun and informative, but they shouldn't be taken as the gospel truth. So Republicans, don't you start celebrating just yet. And Democrats, don't despair. And for everyone else, buckle up, because it's going to be a wild ride in November. As we conclude our show this Friday, July the 12th of 2024, I'd like to say thank you for joining me. Go over to speakpipe.com/politicalpalette and submit a voice clip up to 90 seconds, and I might just play it here on the show. If you'd like to be in the show or be interviewed by me and you are a famous political analyst, a political analyst who's not famous, a grassroots supporter, a voter, anybody, it doesn't really matter. I'd love to have you here on the show, so go ahead, email me at politicalpalette@playzonemedia.com. I'll look forward to it. Thank you all for listening. You can follow me at Matty Unhinged on all social media platforms. Just go to mattyunhinged.com.